Everybody needs a process. Don't just haphazardly look at your financial future. Our process is really simple. It's trademarked. It's called the Family Focus Process. We start with your financial journey. Where are you today and where is it you want to go? Not this week, not this quarter, not this month, but over an extended period of time. And then we're going to look at it through 5 areas. Your life after work, your annual tax plan, what you need to do this year, the investment playbook, what you need to be looking at all of the time. Life happens, the things that come up that are good and bad and ugly that just surprise you. And then 5th is the legacy plan. When you're not able to care for yourself, who takes care of your money? And when something happens to you and you're gone, who gets it? We need to look through that entire lens. That's our process. Call us at 800-928-4001 or go to yourlifeafterwork.com. How do you know where a dollar is going to be its best served? That really is the definition of economics. Ben Graham taught Warren Buffett this years ago. Left to its own devices, a dollar will always go to where it is best served. That's where your dollars need to go in the decisions you make. Now, if you're watching this show, you may wonder why I have a hat and shorts on and my golf outfit. This is a golf theme. I'm trying to show you that in life there are decisions that you have to make. Very, very similar to a golf game. The biggest difference, however, is most of us only get one shot at retirement. If I have a bad round of golf today or a bad hole today, I get to play again at a future date. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, as they would say. Here's what I want you to understand inside of that financial world of being able to make decisions. And that's when I'm on the golf course. I get many different decisions that I can make and choices that I can make. And one of the things that we talk about are swing thoughts, right? So I want my heels planted. I want to make sure that my alignment of my hips and my feet and my shoulders are in the correct place. There's things you learn as you go, things that I certainly didn't know when I started this program or when I started golfing years and years ago. I just kind of grabbed a club, swung a stick, and woohoo, right, away we went. There's things I know today that I didn't know then, and that's probably true of your financial plan. If you work with a professional financial advisor, they probably appear to know more today than they used to. The question is, have they kept up with everything along the way? And when I say your financial planner, remember, many times that's the guy in the mirror. That's you looking at you. You're your own fiduciary, making your own decisions and your own choices. What I want you to think about when you go into making a financial decision is not being predominated by any one thought. And they tell me, behavioral finance people, behavioral psychologists tell me that whatever I'm thinking about at the time, and it's really hard for me to illustrate this, but whatever I'm thinking about at the time, not only do I give it undue relevance in my decision making, but I over-amplify that relevance by 70%. In other words, if I should be equally discerning about 4 different things, and I'm thinking about item A, I'm overweighting my evaluation of how important that is by 70% relative to the other 3. Now, how they do the math and how they come up with that, I have no idea. That is not my area of expertise. But my 35 years of experience will tell you that's exactly what happens. Your job as a fiduciary is the same as my job. If you're doing this for yourself, right, you have to be aware that there are 4 things that you've got to pay attention to: risk and volatility, fees and expenses, taxes today and tomorrow, and real return. What happens is Wall Street gets paid for you to pay attention, right? For you to pay attention to risk and volatility. Remember, Wall Street doesn't make money off commissions. Brokers make money off commissions, not Wall Street. Wall Street gets paid off of activity. So there's a reason we have to send you all these statements, which by definition are lagging data, right? And that's where people's focus is. When the market is going up, the world is full of, I hate to say it, but greed. It's going to continue to go up, and people are living in la-la land and calculating how long they are until they're gazillionaires. When the market's going down, they're extrapolating how long until they're dead flat broke and living at their in-laws' house. It's just our human nature. And when we pay attention to the news and CNBC and the things we hear, that's easy to in front of our face. Fees and expenses, Wall Street does its best to make stealth, hidden. Well, nothing to see here, right? There are no fees and expenses in mutual funds and 401ks. Yeah, right. If you believe that that industry is philanthropic, figure out where the big buildings came from, because I'm not donating to them. They are not free and clear and simple and cheap. But the fees and expenses aren't put in front of your face all the time. People are quiet about that. The taxes today and tomorrow, you get your tax return once a year. Once a year, right, is when it comes back. Most people look at it, complain about it, throw it in a drawer, maybe have a drink or two, and then repeat and do the same thing again the next year. But because the date only comes once a year, and because as humans we have a propensity to believe the more information we have, the better decision we can make, when we put it in the drawer, we're done with it for the year. We don't pay attention to it at all anymore. Now, real return, that's the fourth item in the fiduciary focus, is inflation. And, for years, people have really ignored it. I've even had people say, Joe, do we still have to talk about inflation? Yes, you have to talk about inflation. And now that you're paying $5.25 for a gallon of gasoline, maybe you understand the concept now in terms of purchasing power when your retirement is a fixed percentage or a fixed number. You retired, you got $3,000 a month, but it's not changing. But the price of gas that's inflation. That's the reducing of your purchasing power that's going out there. So you've got those four things. And, if you're a Star Trek guy, you think about the holodeck, right? You've got those four screens in front of you. And if you're watching CNBC or if you're watching any of the market information or you're looking at statements, your mind is going to fixate on risk and volatility, and it's real easy to overweight that and not pay attention to fees and expenses, taxes today and tomorrow, and real return. What you really have to do is to pay attention to all four of those equally. So when I'm on the golf course and I'm in the fairway, I don't have to worry a lot about my lie. The lie is where your ball is setting. Now, every now and then, just bad things happen and you wind up in a divot. That's when somebody else took a swing, took some turf out, didn't fill up the hole with the sand, shame on them, and all of a sudden my ball is in a hole in the middle of the fairway. I did everything right, but I wound up in a divot anyhow. It happens, and you have to know how to hit out of a divot. That's when you call professionals that understand, okay, here's a tax planning issue. This is a question. I wound up here. How in the world do I get out of it? I make those calls all of the time. It's why I have people at Ed Slott at IRA Help to be able to pick up the phone and call. They're friends that I have, 400 of them, that are tax attorneys, CPAs, and other tax geeks like me, so that if I don't know the answer, they do. But that's why I have that group. You don't need to have that group. You just need to have somebody who has access to that group, right? But nonetheless, I could wind up in a divot. I could wind up in the rough. Now, the rough is when the grass is higher, the ball may be buried down, it may be up on top. I've got to deal with things like flyers and whether or not I have to swing faster to get out because it's buried. That means all the way down at the bottom. Those are things that I have to look at. They are conditions, if you will. So when I look at that risk and volatility, fees and expenses, taxes today and tomorrow, and real return, how do I start? Well, if I'm teaching at Purdue, I'm talking about averages, and most of what I just gave you doesn't apply to them because most of those people, on average, don't have money in an IRA or 401k. Again, you need to understand when you're reading white papers and you're trying to do research, most of what you're getting doesn't apply to you. You are unique, right? Secondly, I'm going to talk as a certified financial planner. That's my job. That's how I'm educated. That's how I learned my craft, if you will. So I know the tax codes. I know the rules. I know if I close the shaft, the ball's going to have lower trajectory. If I open the shaft, it's going to fly up higher in the air. I've got that. I understand that from the golf swing. But what happens if I invest IRAs in this manner or that manner, or Roths in this manner or that manner? Those are things you may know or you may not know. But that's where a professional comes into play. What I want to help you understand is how you look at the lens of those four things equally. And the best way, in my opinion, is to take a step back and start with your financial vision. Where are you today? Now, on the golf course, I do this by where do I want the shot to wind up? Where do I want my next shot to be? Invariably, I want it to be in the hole at the end of that whole particular hole. I want to be able to make my putt and it go into the hole, right? But if it's a par 5, I may have 2 or 3 shots before that. What do I want that next shot to look like? That's a golf journey, if you will. You're on a financial journey. You need to step back and start with your financial vision. Where is it you want to go? And some people think, Joe, I'm 35 or I'm 45 or I'm 55. This is kind of corny. I want to have as much money as I can, retire as soon as I can, and live the best life that I can. I get it. But I really need you to sit down and have this conversation. See, in my office, if you ever get to come to my house, there's 2 chairs. There's the Joe chair as the financial planner, and there's the Joe chair that's one of the Financial Enhancement Group families. And every statement that I get, everything that I get from the Financial Enhancement Group, I sit down in the family chair. I want to look at it like you're looking at it to understand what in the world is going on and what I need to be doing with this. And I look at it through the lens of my financial vision that Barb and I established years ago that we look at all the time and update all of the time, or I should say up all the time. We don't make changes to it very often, but we know how we want to live our lives. Charitably, from a retirement side, I've told you, my objective is not necessarily to leave the workforce. I want to financially be able to, but that doesn't mean that I want to stop doing what I'm doing. So just to give you the 2 extremes, one of my folks is a missionary. His financial vision is at 92, at retirement, he wants to give away more money than he spends on himself. I have a doctor's wife who says at 92 she didn't want to be a bag lady. Neither is right or wrong. There's no judgment here. They're just dramatically different. If I'm 150 yards out on the golf course, or if I'm 300 yards out on the golf course, I'm going to use a different club. I'm still going to swing. I'm still going to have to make contact with the ball. I still have to deal with the lie or the current condition that I'm in. And the same thing is true of you when you have to make a financial decision. But if you don't have your financial vision figured out, you're going to be like my friends that walk up that use the same club regardless of the distance they have ahead of them. They're not thinking about their next shot. They're just figuring out, how do I get the greatest return? Forget risk, forget volatility, forget taxes, forget fees and expenses. How do I get the largest return so that I can go to work and brag to my friends about how much money I have? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, I've done this for a long time. And it may sound fun to have a statement that says you have $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million. Whatever matters a lot to you is fine. It may sound fun like that, but what matters most is knowing that you can take income out of it, not run out of money, and maintain the standard of living to which you become accustomed. That is our job at the Financial Enhancement Group, helping you understand that financial journey. So make sure you've established your financial vision. Doesn't have to be long. Just know what it is, right? That you're going in the right direction. Look at it through the lens of those 4 things equally. Risk and volatility, fees and expenses, taxes today and tomorrow, and real return. Know the media will drive you in one direction or the other, but pay attention to your financial journey, not theirs.